identify pro-black. I want to speak about the image of our people. We have to be protective of our image.
Our ancestors, they were oppressed, and we are oppressed today.
Assalamu alaikum, Hotep. How's everybody doing tonight? We are so glad that you've joined in to the John the Kev show. My name is John, and this brother next to me is Kev, my man. And man, we have a great subject to talk about tonight. First of all, I'd just like to say, or ask him a question. How you doing tonight, Kev?
I'm making it, man. I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here, and hopefully my voice sound a little deeper, and I can, try to keep up with you like that, man.
Okay, good. Now, before we get started, I want to ask everybody to do us a favor. We're at 73 subscribers. We want to try to get up to 100 real soon. So within the next few weeks, why don't you tell a friend about the John the Kev show so they can subscribe to our broadcast, because the information that we talk about is very important, and everyone needs to listen as well as put their intake as to the subject matter that we deal with. But tonight's subject is called Black History, the Price of Black Resistance. Yeah. In 1968, two black men raised their fist, not for attention, no, Brother Kev, but they raised their fist for dignity, and the world made sure that they paid for it. Now, tonight, though, we're going to confront the uncomfortable truth about what it really costs when African Americans stand up for their people, especially when the punishment comes not only from the system, brother, but oftentimes, the punishment, it comes from our own people.
Yeah, and I think the punishment comes from our own people because we allow the punishment to come from outside.
Okay.
You know, the same thing that happened with Kaepernick. I believe that we allow it to happen because we don't protect our protesters.
Okay.
So that's why I think it hurts us, because I think as people, we don't really hurt us as much because we don't have the power to hurt us. I think there's the lack of support.
Okay, there it is.
Is what
wow,
I like to think of not protecting us.
Oh, that's awesome, man, because the context, and for those of us who are a little bit older, we probably know, but I'll bring a little context to it, and me and Kev will just jump into it. The context is, as I said earlier, the Summer Olympics happened in 1968, the one we're talking about in Mexico City, and there was a 200-meter race that was run, and two brothers one came in first, one came in third. The one that came in first, his name was Tommy Smith. Now, mind you, he was 24 years old, and John Carlos, he came in third place, and so he was only 23 years old at the time, and so they both came in first and third. But at the medal podium, what happened was when they were receiving their medals, they both raised their fists representing Black Power protests. And here it is right here for those who can see. This image right here is the exact image we're talking about. And so history's price tag on Black courage. They raised their fist to protest how Black people were being treated, especially with the racism and the segregation and the violence, the injustice, et cetera, and the lack of basic human rights for Black people worldwide. But the black glove, if you look at the black glove symbolized Black power and unity, everyone. And so the gesture said this: we may have won the medals, but our people are still not free. But then something happened to them, Kev, after that. And I know I'm going to let you jump in here because I know you're ready for this one.
Well, I want to go in before even and go a little deeper in the Summer Olympics. What happened, what predicated it? Okay. So what was happening in 67? We had a brother named Harry Allen. Some people may remember Harry Allen. He was on Public Enemy, Don't Believe the Hype.
Okay.
Like, Harry, you that type. What you got? You say, don't believe the hype.
Okay.
Now, Harry Allen was a former athlete, and he was a socialist.
Okay.
I'm a psychologist. Whoa. He's a psychologist and an educator. He basically tackled the Black issue and that was happening in our country. So in 67, they had a Black Power conference.
Mm-hmm.
And with the Black Power Conference, they were thinking that maybe we could use our athletes.
Mm-hmm.
The Summer Olympics is coming up within a year. And they came up with a concept of using our athletes to boycott the games. And this goes into what we were talking about stringing us out or not helping. So what happened was we wasn't telling us, the black athlete, we wasn't telling the United States one way or another whether we was going to participate. And that was the threat. So the press to say, have y'all come up with a conclusion? So at that Black Power conference, that's when they came up with the boycott concept for the whole Olympics. They wasn't going to show up, period. And they was going to say, okay, y'all treat us like we're invisible in the country, then we'll be invisible for your games, because a lot of the black athletes were the ones getting the medals in the Summer Olympics, track and field, the boxing, all this thing like this. So what they came up with the Olympic Project for Human Rights. That's what Harry Allen came up with. And so they kept the United States in limbo, not letting them know if we were going to go or not. And then what they did, they made demands. The demands, they had 5 demands that they wanted basically the country to listen to. And one was hiring more black coaches for the Olympic teams. The second one was they wanted to ban South Africa and Rhodesia because of their apartheid governments. Many of us don't know about Rhodesia, but Rhodesia apartheid government also. They also wanted to ban the International Olympic president, Avery Brundage. And he was like a known racist. He was the one that got Germany the 36 Olympics, I believe. Hitler, you know, with Jesse Owens participated in, and he lied and said that he talked to the Jews over there and they felt like they loved Hitler. So this is what made the world say, okay, yeah, well, we're going to have the Olympics there. So Hitler ended up hosting the Olympics, and he also had a couple of the Jewish players kicked off the Olympic team. So this is the person that they wanted to have banned. He was the International Olympic Committee president. Okay, his name was Avery Brundage. The last 2 things they wanted to boycott the New York Athletic Club. Okay. And the last one was they wanted Muhammad Ali's title restored to him. Okay. Because of the Vietnam, when he wouldn't go to the war or sign up for Vietnam, and they stripped him of his title. So those were the 5 things that at this Black Power conference where Harry Allen and all these black athletes, this is what they were demanding. So then they voted right before the Olympics, and they voted because they was boycotting, and they voted to end the boycott. I guess they had more athletes that said, no, we want to go, you know, and this is not something new, because it happened again in 1980 where America boycotted the 1980 Olympics for political reasons. But here we did it before that, and it was, you know, shunned. And so the athletes, they had a vote amongst themselves, and they said, do y'all want to do it or not? So they said, yeah, we're going to do it. So we end up going, and they had meetings in the village, and they were talking amongst themselves about what can we do? We're here, but we're going to still let the world know what's going to happen. So everybody was mulling about what's going to happen. What should we do? How can we show them? How can we show solidarity? Right. And this is where everyone did their own thing, which the only ones that really did anything of note was the protest, the iconic picture of the protest. And this is, you know, Tommy Smith, John Carlos, and also Peter Norman was the Australian dude, but he faced his own problems also. Exactly. But I did want to go into that. So that's the backdrop of we were talking these discussions started happening in 59, actually. Wow. So it's been an ongoing thing. And at that time, the NBA wasn't big. Okay. It wasn't worldwide. It wasn't even American on television like that. And NFL wasn't big like it is. You know, they didn't even have the Super Bowls back then like that. So the biggest thing on the world stage was the Olympics. So that's what I wanted to inject into that.
Wow, that's really good, because this seems like there was a strategy beforehand, and then that's sometimes, you know, we go into a situation and we have no type of strategy. We just do it, and then we pay the consequences. But in this case, Kev, many African Americans, after this was over with, you know, and we can talk about some of the things that we have done. Even though we don't have the power, like you said, to make the change, the major change to affect many people. But I'm talking about from within, many African Americans distanced themselves from these brothers.
Right.
And you and I talked about that even before the broadcast, and even the last few weeks we kept going back and forth about why is it that when there is a protest, and I know there's a price that we have to pay, because that's what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about the price of Black resistance. Why does it seem like whenever we stand for justice or righteousness or truth, when it comes to our people, many of our own, Kev, many of our own, we distance ourselves from each other, like you said last week before last with Martin Luther King, with Malcolm X. We can go on and on, how now they're heroes because we all look at what they've done that affect us today. But back then, a lot of us, we distanced ourselves from them, like these brothers.
Yeah, it's a peculiar thing that happens. I believe in the Black community.
Okay.
I believe many of us look at us doing things as if we're doing things and not knowing what we're doing. It's a condescending way of how we look at any kind of movement or boycott that we want to have. And we think, and many of us look at a lot of us and say, and think as if it's not well thought of. And then we criticize and we sit on the sideline and criticize. I hear that with Kaepernick, you know, what he did, he went about it the wrong way. What he did, well, brother, then do your way. You know, that's what my point is.
Right.
Instead of playing the sidelines,
right,
or supporting what somebody is trying to do. Even if you're Martin Luther King and you're thinking Malcolm X and them was going about it the wrong way. You don't talk down, you don't talk about it. You know, just keep your mouth closed and do your way.
Wow.
If you're Malcolm X and them and someone or any of the Black Power and you think Martin Luther King is going about it the wrong way, don't talk about, leave it alone. Let him do his way.
Right.
And then if you want to do a different movement, then do your own movement.
Wow.
But we sit on the sidelines and we talk about, look at him, he's doing it, his shoe ain't tied. This is the, you know, whatever they want to say, you know, and that's the problem that I see with us.
Yeah, and that problem has been it has been inculcated in each of our minds since our birth, and we have to look at what white racism and what white supremacy, what it has taught us to turn against each other in many instances, because all we're doing is what our enemy, what they do, because a lot of African Americans label them as troublemakers.
Right.
Now, how could they be troublemakers when they're standing for something that's supposed to help us? You see, that's a peculiar, it's a weird way of thinking about what we call liberty and freedom. You see,
they're troublemakers, but there's trouble already there.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
That's a funny thing. They call them troublemakers, stirring up trouble, but we've been in trouble since we've been here.
Exactly.
You know,
and even
crazy.
the silence for solidarity, support went silent, leaving these brothers isolated. Now I'm going to say something that I looked at and it was really interesting. I thought that at first when I studied this, I said, well, they probably went through a little bit for a little time. But what blew me away was their backlash for what they did. It lasted, it says, anywhere from 30 to 40 years before they were broadly honored and publicly respected again. That's a long time, Kevin. They were young men at that time. That's a long time.
Yeah. They basically lost their livelihoods.
Yes.
And lost their marriages, and a lot of the family members, because everyone was suffering because of it. They didn't just make those brothers suffer. They were making it hard for them and anyone to associate with them.
Exactly.
And it seemed like that was a time for us to stand up.
Okay.
But we left them out to dry, and we treated, they acted it as if they were lone wolves. That's what they was making an example out of them. I put out that they were kicked off the team immediately.
Yeah, that's true.
And they had 48 hours to leave Mexico. Howard Cosell did interview. I believe he interviewed maybe Tommy Smith, and he talked to Tommy before Tommy left Mexico. And Howard Cosell, who's a Jewish announcer, and we know him from being a counterpart with Muhammad Ali, or the co-part with Muhammad Ali, but he spoke up for those brothers, and he spoke up for what they were talking about and what they were trying to do, and the things that they were trying to get recognized around the world. So he did interview. He spoke out personally. Then he did interview. Gave him airtime to speak. And the crazy thing about it, the Black athletes at the Olympics, 68 Olympics, all of them were talking about what are we going to do. So when Tommy Smith and John Carlos did what they did, the hammer came down. The thing is, this is the 68 Olympics is when George Foreman won the heavyweight title, heavyweight gold. So that was the biggest thing in boxing. You know, the heavyweight title, the heavyweight gold medal, because you're the biggest person, blah, blah, blah. George Foreman grabbed the American flag and danced around the ring, waving the flag. I had lost a lot of respect then. I didn't know that. I didn't know what was happening at the time. And this is why then a lot of times when he became a pro, that black people a lot of us didn't care for him because he was the Uncle Tom. Now it was ignorant to him. He didn't know. He just said he heard all this talk. He was I'm from a small Texas town. I don't know all this stuff they talking about, all this black power stuff and all this stuff. So he was like, man, I love America. And he said, I don't want them to think I don't love America and all that stuff, basically like foolishness that they're talking.
Right.
So what he did was he protested against them. He made an example that we love you, America. And he danced around the ring. If y'all look at George Foreman in the 68 Olympics, after his victory, he walked around the ring with the little flag and he was dancing with the flag. Wow,
that's heavy. And we like you said, we have to look at these brothers and what really happened to them, because we can't just kind of gloss over it, because you mentioned they were kicked off the Olympic team immediately. Right. Once that happened, they were kicked off the Olympic team. Their professional track opportunities disappeared almost overnight. No one would hire them. As you mentioned, that was financial hardship. 23 and 24 years old. They received death threats. You know, they also, many Americans publicly called them unpatriotic. You know, they called them unpatriotic and ungrateful. And some Americans distanced themselves, fearing the backlash their own selves.
Right.
So you see, John Carlos and Tommy Smith went from Olympic champions to jobless, threatened, isolated men. They went to being punished, not by the law, but by society, for telling the truth on a world stage. And as you mentioned, Colin Kaepernick is a perfect example. Ever since 2016, when he took the knee, people said things about him that we should not have allowed to even happen. And these are some of the athletes that played with him, that was in his locker room, you know, that was on his team. And so when you stand up for freedom, when you stand up in protest, you have to be ready that there's going to be some type of backlash.
Right.
And it's going to cost something. And I look at what we do here, and it's not much, and I'm not trying to blow my own horn or anything, but the school that we have now, you know, people complain about how we're not being educated, and we're not. But yet each year we send our children to the same place that's to miseducate them. And sometimes you have to look at that. What do we really want, man? Do we really want what we say we want? Or do we just want to be people who have basically got into the system and got paid, as many of our athletes are today? And we'll talk about that later on as well, because a lot of them aren't making a lot of noise, but this same oppression is going on today. Nothing has changed.
I think it's a lot of psychological aspects to that, man.
Okay.
That like I aforementioned earlier, a lot of times many of us look at us in a condescending way, as if whatever we're trying to do, we're irresponsible in doing it, or uneducated in what we're doing, and you know, they just look down on anything we're doing without looking into what it is that we're doing and why. I think we do that with a lot of our leaders. I've seen that happen with Martin Luther King, and I had to open my eyes that Martin Luther King was a very educated person. And we think, we're paying tribute to them, and you're simplifying their actions. Also, what I think that we do is, if we see anything that we do, we combat what we do if we are not. That's cognitive dissonance if we're not doing it. Okay. You know, like you always say, man, people complain about education, but we keep doing the same thing, sending our kids to these schools. And when they hear about you having a school, then what they want to do, they want to nitpick and find reasons why it's not a good idea. I had one of my friends, somebody, you know, when I talk about HBCUs and sending, you know, because this person didn't send their kids to a HBCU. And I'm not talking about, hey, if you didn't send, you know, that's bad. What I'm saying is, this is what we got to do. This is what we got to start doing, or the mindset that we got to have. Send our athletes. And the person was like, well, can they accommodate all our black kids? No, brother. Well, you know what? That's just like me saying I got a store or a restaurant with 20 tables in there, and black people need to patronize black businesses. And you say, well, can you patronize everybody in the city? Come on. I don't have to. I should be full, and I should be having to turn people away. You know? Yeah,
that's true. And it's that mindset that you're talking about, Kel, that really, it's a mindset that is terrible. this mindset is still prevalent today because many people, they didn't just stop at that. Some people said they had gone too far. How can you go too far when you're standing up against oppression? You can't go too far. That's how oppression stops.
Okay, and let me get into this iconic photo. For this photo to be up here is it's a reason for everyone that's on the wall. And I'm you know, I understand that it should be many more people on the wall. Mm-hmm. But what John Carlos and Tommie Smith did, this means a lot to me because they were showing the world, they were standing up for other people. This is not just about blackness. Mm-hmm. You brought up the glove on the right hand. Tommie Smith, the one on the highest podium, he had the black glove in the right hand. That was for black unity. Black power. Okay. The glove on the left hand with John Carlos, that was for black unity. Okay. They both came on the podium. You can't really see it here. Okay. They didn't have shoes on. Okay. And they went up there with black socks on with no shoes. And that was for poverty. Okay. The poverty that black people are going through in America. They also had, if you look at John Carlos, he had his jacket open. That's going against the Olympic uniform. Okay. And he has his jacket open, and probably for a couple of reasons, but he had his open jacket, which he violated the rules, and that was about solidarity for the American workers. Mm-hmm. He had beads on, and I'm talking still on John Carlos. Okay. He had beads on about lynching. Okay. You know, and all these things you can't see in just this picture. And also over here, because they got different angles of this picture, but all the way to the right side is a Puma sneaker. He put the Puma sneaker because Puma was the only one that was helping black athletes at that time. And he wanted to show them appreciation. Mm. So Tommie Smith had the scarf on, and that represented blackness, period. Okay. And they all of these gentlemen, even the guy from Australia, Peter Norman, all of them wore the patch from the Black Power Conference, which was the Olympic Project for Human Rights. Right. So this is all the things that's happening in this picture, and people treating it like, oh, these brothers just went up there and raised their fist. Right. And it's all about black people. But you know, if you're workers in America, the solidarity, the unions and stuff, they were representing you. Yeah. All the people that had been lynched in America, the lynching thing that was happening, they were representing you. So it wasn't as if they just did something and not think about it. It wasn't well thought of, but they didn't even have the rest of the athletes backing them. Right. That's heavy, Kev, because when you look at John Carlos, you look at what happened to his life personally, where his marriage collapsed because of this. You know, his marriage collapsed under the pressure. And I understand that he spoke to people many years afterwards, and he said that he was so depressed that he had suicidal thoughts because everything was going against him during the period in his life. So, you know, the real recognition didn't come till the late 1990s or the 2000s. And that was a full institutional acknowledgement, which came later. But once again, what they went through, I don't think we can fathom the price that they paid for protest. And not these brothers. Where were we at? Now, I'm not blaming us because they were probably put in the dark with us. That tells us about us, what they're able to do with us or to us with our heroes. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of us have just woken up in the last 20 years or so about Malcolm X. Many of us have just woken up about the Black Panther Party. Right. Many of us need to wake up about many more of our heroes that put themselves in a line of fire for us. True. They were punished in their prime, and they were praised only after their lives were already shaped by the sacrifice that they committed. And one of the things I wanted to bring out, which is we're studying this even in school with my students, we're studying about how they gave an ultimate sacrifice, which cost them for what they did. But some people, the sacrifice that some paid, it was their lives. Right. In other words, and you see time after time again, when we do something that's important, we see that some of our own are behind our backs trying to unplug it. But these people I want to talk about, if you give me 3 minutes or so, these are people that
their lives were given because of the very fact that you and I are talking about this. In other words, there were so many different resistances during slavery. There was a whole lot of resistance. And so in 1739, there was something called the Stono Rebellion. This is where enslaved Africans, they fought towards freedom in South Carolina. Many of them were killed on the spot and they were later executed. In 1800, Gabriel Prosser, he planned an organized uprising in Richmond, Virginia. And that plan didn't even get off the ground because he was betrayed by some of us. And we can say all we want to as to why they did it, but he was betrayed by us. He was captured and he was hung. The German Coast Uprising of 1811, the largest enslaved revolt in the United States history, anywhere from 200 to 500 people in Louisiana. Charles Deslundes led that. Over 90 blacks were killed, and someone told on them as well. Denmark Vesey, 1822, he planned a massive rebellion in Charleston, South Carolina. And what happened to him was he was also betrayed. He was captured. He was hung along with more than 30 others. And Nat Turner, we all know about Nat Turner, 1831. He led a slave rebellion in Virginia against enslavement. He was also betrayed. He was executed, and at least 55 other African Americans or blacks were hung in retaliation. And last but not least, which I'm not going to spend too much time on, people always ask me, who is my hero, or if there's any European heroes. And I don't have any heroes, but I like what John Brown did, who was a European in 1859 in West Virginia, where he went into the armory and said, hey, if you brothers and sisters are serious about ending slavery, let's go into the armory, let's get the weapons, and I'll give you the weapons, and we're going to overthrow slavery. Well, he did everything he was supposed to do. His sons were sacrificed. They were killed. He was caught. He was hung. When he got into the armory, no one showed up. So the government came in and closed in on him and messed this whole thing up. So basically all I'm trying to say is, Kev, on this particular point I'm trying to make is, in many instances, when we do stand up for protests and when we really want to try to make a change for us, a lot of times it's our own people, man, that do us in. And it's like, that's terrible, but that's what happens. And again, we can go on to as to why they do it. We know that the mindset and all that, but it just appears that we will never get what we need until we look at what you mentioned earlier when you talked about solidarity, or at least have the mindset of, this is what it's going to take, man. I can't work against you.
Right.
I can't work
even
against
if you don't agree, you don't have to work against me.
Exactly.
And this is what I think has befallen many of our leaders in the past also.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had different ways to get to reach a goal.
Mm-hmm.
And because their ways that, or the roads that they were traveling was, they plotted them out differently, they began to fight with each other. And I think that an interesting thing, Jesse Jackson passed today. And Jesse, of course, was ran with Martin Luther King. And in the ending days of Martin Luther King spoke about the Black Power Conference, about the athletes boycotting. He didn't speak out against them. He just was talking about, because what he was understanding was boycotting is good. That's a peaceful demonstration. And I was looking at a video with Jesse Jackson, and he started doing the Black Power. And he's like, I am somebody. And I remember growing up listening to Jesse Jackson. And I remember the transitioning from the peaceful protests with Martin Luther King in the SNCC organization, and the movement of the younger people going towards Black Power, as opposed to trying to have peaceful protest and integration and things like that. They wanted to empower themselves. That was the new movement that was happening with the youth. And then when I saw Jesse Jackson, maybe in the 70s, doing the same thing, he was doing the Black Power Fist, something that when Stokely Carmichael was SNCC, when they were doing it earlier with Martin Luther King, he saw that as something like, don't do that.
Right.
But here's one of his understudies, his proteges, he bought into it, and that became a movement. And people, we simplified what we did and what we went through. But actually the movement for the Black Power initiative became more popular. I think we started to realize, and also I think somehow we've lost that.
Yeah, we really have, because there's different ways of getting at it. And when you think about all these schisms, you know, you think about W.E.B. Du Bois, and you think about Booker T. Washington, Then you throw in Marcus Garvey. You know, you look at different men who wanted to achieve freedom for African Americans on a better level than we've ever had it. But then you look at how people went in and even tried to just take that out. I think one day we were talking and you were telling me about Jackie Robinson, although it was a great thing, many people said, that he went over into the white Major League Baseball and everybody ran. But behind the scenes, there was some other things going on that, you know, we sometimes don't like to talk about, because we don't want to look at the fact that when you protest, there's a price that's going to be paid. And a lot of times we see, especially with these athletes today, these entertainers, these movie stars, and I can simplify it, but yet I know it's a lot deeper than what I'm saying. But at the same time, here we've been in this place for many, many years. We have some of the best of everything. Whatever you say, we have some of the best of, and we know that. But yet we still are in the same situation, because now we're still asking these white owners to help us. And if they don't do what we want them to do, then we complain and we picket and we do things of that sort. All I'm saying is, at some point in time, as a group of people, if we ever want to achieve what we say we want, we're going to have to unify and pool our resources in mind. Not everybody, but those who have that mindset of, hey, I'm tired of allowing our people to be done this way when I know I have the means to do something about it.
Yeah. I'm gonna say I had a question in my mind. I'm gonna still ask it, but I remember when you just said something. I think it was John Carlos was talking about running in the 68 Olympics. And I think a lot of the black athletes felt as if they didn't go, it was going to be another black athlete that was going to step in and run, you know, that they were going against in the qualifying and things. It was somebody that was going to take their place, you know, and I think that's part of our downfall too. Okay. When we don't work in solidarity, because we could say, well, these NFL players, and that's the question I want to ask. Why do we feel as a people that we have to have these entertainers or these athletes to come save the day for us, to make the sacrifices for us, and we are not willing to make sacrifices ourselves?
Well, I think that's a loaded question, but at the same time, I think these athletes and these entertainers, a lot of them, we helped them when they were nothing. In other words, when they weren't as good as they are, we've supported them, especially a lot of the entertainers. We helped buy their albums. We went to a lot of their concerts. We couldn't wait, little kids, to see the Jackson 5 and all of that. I don't necessarily mean they should save the day, but I think there should be some type of pressure put up on people that look like us to know, if I know that you and your children are suffering, and I know that this is a group dynamics. This is not an individual thing. This is group dynamics. I think it is incumbent upon us, because of the plight that we're all in. If you didn't, not you, but if you were a wealthy person, if you didn't have that money, you wouldn't be saying what you're saying, because you would be dealing with the oppression as you're coming up. But now that you make it or you have it, then sometimes we kind of look at it as if, well, they have nothing to do with it. Well, I think they do, because I look at Muhammad Ali. He was about helping liberate black people. I look at Jim Brown. I look at a lot of different athletes, Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I look at a lot of them who sat down and said, what can we do to help our people to form something that we need so that we can start our own?
Okay. Now I'm going to give a different perspective on that, because I have a different perspective. And you gave some names of people. Muhammad Ali, he went in with the Nation of Islam and changed his viewpoints like that. And Jim Brown, I'm not a advocate of Jim Brown now. You know, I know he did some work back in the days, but lately, like the things he did with Trump and everything like that, and spoke out for Trump and supported Trump, I think he lost his way. Some of the things that he was doing behind the scenes probably had nothing to do with some of the work, the positive work he did. So I'm gonna leave it alone. But look at the athletes, because you say that we supported a lot of these athletes. See, I don't think that we support athletes until they start winning. I don't think we support the Jacksons until we see them on TV. You know, when people in Gary probably was like, yeah, these kids is good, but the rest of America didn't know anything or care anything until they saw them on TV. Floyd Mayweather was going to the gym with no socks on in the cold weather in Michigan, and nobody gave a damn about him or did anything for him. He was trying to find a way to make it up to the gym at certain time of the morning. No one cared. Mike Tyson, no one cared about him when he was out there in the streets, 11 years old, fighting with grown men, doing all these things that he was doing. No one showed, but when he became Mike Tyson, the monster, everyone cared about him. So I'm gonna say even some of these rappers or some things like this, they out here hustling, saying support me, support me, support me. A lot of times people don't support them until they hear a hit record or something like that. And what I'm saying is I don't think we invest in our youth like we should. We invest in our youth if we see promise or something, somebody says, oh, somebody else recognizes them and they start to get a little recognition and for whatever talent that they have. You start winning Golden Gloves and people see, oh yeah, he's pretty good. But that person's life started before that. That's what I'm saying. Jim Brown, Bill Russell, LeBron James, these people were going to be who they were. But I'm talking about before they were that. Do we care about them when they was nobody's name? Because that same Jim Brown, Muhammad Ali, or anything, those kids are out here today, and we are not even caring about them to do anything. We're not looking at that kid trying to catch the bus, or that kid going to the gym and seeing if that gym needs boxing gloves, or we're not seeing if the basketball goals are tore down, and we're not doing anything for that. We wait for them to make it in middle school. They show promise and then everyone wants to get behind them. That's how I see our people being. That's how I see people being, period.
Okay. And I want to add to that, because I guess what I'm saying is this: regardless of when we support them, we support them. You can look at just everything you said about Jim Brown and these guys, which is true. People across the world, regardless of their race, people have done things that if you look at these so-called founding forefathers, these businessmen, these Europeans, they don't look at it that way, because once they see their group is in control, they're going to do everything they can. You look at the Democrats and the Republicans, it doesn't matter who's in power. They're still about oppressing those who look like us. So it doesn't matter when we support them, but whenever we support them, and you're right, we don't follow kids to say, hey, maybe you need a basketball goal up. We should do more of that. And I agree with you. I definitely concede we should do more of that. But the point I'm making is, in spite of when we became who we were, we still support them. Your entertainers, everyone that you see, we go crazy about them. And no, we can't support everybody, because like you just mentioned, we don't know who they are. Because when they're growing up, when Muhammad Ali was growing up as Cassius Clay, a lot of people weren't into boxing. But when he became the heavyweight champion, a lot of people took to liking him because of who he was and what he stood for. So that's all I'm trying to say. We should do more of that. So I think you can have it both ways.
So what I'm saying is, we're talking entertainers and people that entertain us, or, in any kind of way. I'm saying it shouldn't even have to be that. We should be showing love because they are ours, the kids. Of course. So just like you open the school, you don't know what any of those kids in your school is going to grow up to be. Some of them may not be a doctor or anything like that, but you're showing them something from the time, because they have potential. And that's what I'm talking about. We got the potential, or just for them being ours. Okay. We should be showing, that should be a normal thing in our community. Of course. We should be showing love to our kids and giving our kids everything they need, and not waiting for them to become entertainers. And my thing is this: okay, entertainer, you could say the entertainer should be doing this. The entertainers do this. These are entertainers. They ran medals, and we should be supporting them and back. Of course. And even the other athletes, of course, should have done that. And, or we as a people should have said, well, you know what, I'm not going to work, or do whatever. Right. I don't care what it is, but the bus boycotts, we can do things at our level to get things done, and we are not putting the onus on us to get these things done.
That's 100% true. I agree with you 100%. I don't even have any qualms with that. I'm just saying that I'm taking everything, whether we do it when they're young, whether we do it when they're old, we need to do it, because when you get through with it, when it's all said and done, we're still going to be in the position of complaining about our situation, when many times we can do some things to better our situation just amongst ourselves. If we hadn't started this broadcast, you and I, we're two decent guys. If we hadn't started this broadcast, nobody would be able to hear what we're talking about. Right. So the people that's tuning in, those who are subscribing to our channel, they don't know us. But when they see and they listen and say, hey, these brothers are talking about something that I need to know about. So they subscribe, and now they want to follow us. So that's a part of what I'm saying. Regardless of when they plug in. Right. So, and also I'm going to say with that, people say, well, they got all this money, and that's a higher gamble for them. They got more to lose. Yeah. And I'm saying us, like, period. Like we brought up Kaepernick. The black community let Kaepernick
out to dry.
Mm-hmm.
They let him, we were talking in the beginning of the show about us not protecting our own. Whether you believe in what they were doing or not, one thing, if it's a sister walking down with a sign, and whatever sign she has talking about whatever issue, and I may not even agree with that, and somebody pulls up and they get mad at her and they snatch the sign, I'm like, no, whoa, bro, you're not gonna do that. You know, because she has that right?
Exactly.
You know, it doesn't matter if I agree with what she's saying.
Mm-hmm.
She still has that right to say and do what she's doing.
Right.
So then, even if people are saying, well, you know, I don't agree with what that person is doing, you know the punishment that they're doing. I'm not going to stop everybody to say, you know, put the finger up while they're driving by, but I'm saying you're not going to grab her, you're not going to mistreat her, you're not going to do that. Our athletes are entertainers that stood up and they got mistreated. Many of us did nothing about it.
Exactly.
And that's what I have qualms with, because a lot of us that sit here and say our athletes need to do this and that. And I'm like, why would they? If they look at the example, why would they? The example of what you're talking about, Tommy Smith and John Carlos went through for 30 years, 40 years after this. Why would they made the examples for them purposely so no one else would do it? When Kaepernick did what he did, and some of the players followed in, most of them didn't. What will happen to him? He's not even getting the job anymore. Then we got these talking black heads on TV talking about why he's not getting the job, and it has nothing to do. You know, it's like, why would they do what they're doing? And then why is it us that's not supporting
I understand.
in some form or fashion?
Exactly. I understand that. And just like all these rebellions that I mentioned, these people, they had a lot of people who probably told them, y'all shouldn't be doing this. You know, they had people that turned against them, but they still did it, is what I'm saying. In spite of their situation, they did it because of what you just said. They understood that there was a price that they were going to have to pay, and maybe they didn't think they were going to die. They thought they were going to actually overthrow the government, but in their hearts, they wanted it for us. And that's what I'm saying. Whether they do or don't, it's up to us as a people to look at what are we going to do for the rest of our stay in this country. Are we going to continue to complain about what's going on? Are we not you? I'm talking about us as a people. Are we going to continue to nitpick about what we don't have? Are we going to continue to gripe and bitch and moan and groan and murmur about all the things that's going wrong and not do what we're saying? As far as when you see somebody at least attempting, don't try to pull that person down. Do what you can to help that person so that this world could be a better place for us, not for anybody else, for us, because we've been catching it since we've been here. We're going to catch it when we leave. But if we sit around and don't do anything, or at least attempt, then we're going to continue to be in the same situation until we leave.
Right. And my thing is, when I hear people talk about what someone did wrong, or the protest or whatever, the boycott, I mean, the easiest thing for me, for us to do is to boycott. Because you can sit at home and boycott. Protesting, you have to go out there and be seen and take some of your time and energy. The boycott, which a lot of times we're giving up, is something that we enjoy. But you could do that. You can boycott something for one day. You could boycott something and say, you know what, I'm going to start. And the best boycotts to me is when you say, you know, I'm going to stop patronizing this and start patronizing us more, because you're killing two birds with one stone. You're letting them know it's a protest. They understand it without them seeing it. Seeing you physically, they see it in their strategy rooms, and they're looking at the money. The accountants, they're looking at that. Why is our money going down? Target saw that. You know, all these people that jumped on the DEIs, they saw that. You know, because black people got mad enough to say, you know what, I'm not going there. This person, this place did that, and they saw it. And some of the CEOs got fired for whatever reason. My thing is, the boycotts is more effective because it's talking about where you're spending your money or who you're giving power to. If you turn off the games, at least for a week, and everyone did it in solidarity, they'll know.
Right.
They'll get the message. We won't do that. And we could talk about why. We don't like to talk about why, but we could talk about why we can't do that for 1 week to put out, just like these brothers at the Black Power Conference. Their motto was any means possible. You know, Malcolm X was already there. Any means necessary. They said by any means possible. That means we're going to let them know what's happening to us, and we're going to let the world know. We're not happy about it by any means possible. That means boycott games and things like this. Within ourselves, as a people, we should be 100% behind that.
I think so too. And I think we should also understand that when it comes to our people, and I'm going to take myself for an example, we can't have the mindset of just because you had a bad experience at a certain restaurant or a place of establishments that's owned by African Americans, that everybody's like that. I've had the door closed in my face. I've had many businesses on the east side, south side, north side, west side that are African American that just not going to help me. But I'm not going to sit up here, and I know you're not saying this, but I'm not going to sit up here on this broadcast and say I'm never going to support an African American business. I'm going to keep going because I understand that when it comes to finances, when it comes to business, we really don't have what other people have. That's why people complain when Target has something that's really cheap. And then an African American store may have something that costs a little bit more, but they don't look at the dynamics as to why does it cost a little bit more. And just because it costs more, you have to sacrifice. And that's what all these brothers and sisters have done for us is they made a sacrifice, and we have to be willing to make a sacrifice as well.
Right. We sacrifice coming on doing the show, giving our time a couple of times a month, preparing the show, doing the show. We sacrifice our time and efforts and stuff. We could be doing other things. I mean, all this camera, microphone stuff. You know, a younger person gonna have somebody on here rapping. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We're older than that. So what I'm saying is still because we are trying to do something, we have a goal for our people. We want to have these conversations, at least spark conversations, not just listen to us talk and just agree or disagree, but at least have that conversation. What do you think we could be doing different? Or maybe something could be sparked in you to say, you know what, I could do something different. We are protesting and boycotting in our own ways. I'm doing that in my own ways. A lot of times when we are leaving our protesters out to dry and they are being made an example of, that make us look weak as a people.
You're right. It definitely does. And it shows that we have that we have no character, because a character is just because people are dealing with you in a negative light. I know you. I don't care what they say or what they do. I'm going to stand by you. And so I can't be this weak-minded person that, well, nobody else is fooling with Kev, so I'm gonna stop fooling with him. So character says we understand that our people have been in this country for many, many hundreds of years, and the storyline is still the same. So we need each other, and I know that. So no one has to teach that to me. No one has to teach that to you. But the point of the matter is, many of us, we don't realize that this is a war we're in. It's a war. It's a war for the minds of the children. It's a war. It's a war going on with what we eat. It's how we think. It's what we do. It's everything. Every facet of life is warlike, and it's just we have to realize that if we're ever going to make a change, we have to start with what these brothers at least did, and that was they strategized and they pulled it off, even though it cost them. But to this day, I wish if we could interview them and they talk to us about some of the things they went through, it'll be much deeper than what we're saying. But at the same time, I think they love us so much that they said, I'm going to do something that's going to at least spark the conversation to make a change.
And going back to Tommy Smith and John Carlos. John Carlos has a book out. You know, that's one way that people could support him. You know, hey, we missed it back then, or that generation. Like you say, 24, 23 years old, you know, they should have been heroes in our community. And I remember when I was younger, when I first would come visit in Texas, and I remember the first time I heard about something, I didn't even really know. I was a younger kid. We used to come visit Texas, and my uncle was saying something about in school. I guess he was in elementary school, and they were playing the national anthem, and one of the kids rose his fist. And the principal came and just snatched them off the stage and all this, but they thought it was funny. And I'm like, okay, I'm listening to this, and I'm like, I don't know what that's about. I had never seen this. I had never known about this. But this should be something that we are teaching our kids about constantly. These things are the type of things that they should be growing up knowing what happened, why it happened, and maybe that will be incorporated in their mindset as they grow older. And having these conversations, like I say, you deal with people no matter if they're going to be the heavyweight champion or not, because the same way they may be a doctor, and there's doctors and dentists and all these, it's people at HBCUs that need things and need stuff from us. They're going to be 90%, 70% of our dentists and all these things like that. And they're going to be the ones that's really driving the engine, not someone shooting the basketball and doing all this, but these are the people that's going to be the backbone of our community and culture, and we don't show them any type of support.
And we should do more of what you just said. In fact, we should look for people like that.
Right.
We should go out and we should, go on a quest to find a store or a business or a person that's doing something that looks like us to say, you know what, I'm going to support you just because I'm going to support you. I know that you need the support, and I know you're doing something positive. We have to recognize. Now, that was very positive what you just said. But see, we don't always look at that as positive because we want someone that has a lot of everything. If they have a lot of patients, then that's a good doctor. If they have a lot of students, that's a good teacher, as opposed to someone who has a heart for the people that's going to make a change and a sacrifice. And I think that's one of the things that we're missing. But like you said earlier, these brothers, everyone, these should be household names. Now, we know the rappers, we know the athletes, we know people that hit home runs and all of that, but these names should be on all of our lips. As far as growing up, we should know something about the sacrifice and what they did, because they were trendsetters. Even though they didn't get all the popularity that they should have gotten, they stood for something that was very crucial and exciting. And I think a lot of times as African Americans, we're looking for the glitz and the glamour. And it's not always going to come like that, Kel.
Yeah, and I think with John Collins, I think he became like a track coach in New York State or something like that. But I'm thinking of all the athletes that we had at that time, or any other black schools. This is something that showed you that we were powerless. The system was trying to show us, we're going to take one, and we're going to blackball two of your athletes, and there's nothing you're going to do about it. What happened to Muhammad Ali? This is part of the things that they were demanding. This is not even, they're not boxers. You know what I'm saying? They were talking about another athlete, the icon in our community. These are the things they were demanding. They were talking about boycotting, give him back his title, right? We're not doing that. We won't do anything like that as a people. Our singers won't say, I'm not going to sing. Our players are not going to say they're not going to play for whatever reason or whatnot. And that shows that we have no power. Because what I'm looking at with these brothers, when they got out when they came back to America, it should have been someone to give them a job. You're an athlete, you're a trainer, you've trained to be in this position to run. It's NFL players who, I mean, you could have said, hey, you're my personal trainer. Some of the professional boxers that was there. I don't care who it was, Joe Frazier, who it was. They should have been the ones saying, hey, all right, I'm gonna give y'all brothers a shot. Somebody somewhere should have taken up the reins for these brothers to not go through the hardships that they went through, and that shows something on it, reflects on us.
Exactly. Just like you think about people like Colin Kaepernick, someone should have been there for him. As many people that are in the NFL that he's been around that just said that they were down for the cause, they should have been able to catch him and let him still have a voice. But again, they don't want to associate with him because they look at the tag that was put on him, and they don't want to say, well, you know what, if I help him, now they're going to blackball me too. And because we have no character, many of us, a lot of us do, but a lot of us don't. They wanted to stay as far away from him as they possibly could. I think about people like Ivy Wells when she started writing about how lynching was wrong, how people distanced themselves from her. And here's a female who had the nerve to write about the importance of not lynching African-American men. And a lot of people told her she shouldn't even write like that. They ran her out of town, man. I think about Fannie Lou Hamer, who they beat her in jail and told her, don't you try to get people to vote. Don't you talk about trying to register people. She got out of jail and did the very same and exposed the people that did it. So these are the people that where are those kinds of people now, Kel? Where are we as by and large, a large population, not just a few? Where are we?
I don't think that we have the revolutionaries like that. I don't think they're actually needed like that. And I'm going to say that because I think we've made progress as a people, that we've gotten comfortable. And even though I don't agree that the progress we've made should have made us comfortable, because what I'm saying is the times are not the same. So it's not like everything is just the same as it was in the 40s, because it's not. We're able to vote. So when you're talking about people trying to fight to vote and doing all these things like this, I think we have appreciated a lot of rights and things that we didn't have at those times. So just like the list of the names you gave, we're not needing to break into armories and stuff like that. So it's different. We don't need that type of things. We need the same type of revolutionaries for a different type of way of doing it in a different cause.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. I think that in your face doing it like this, you know, I think that we need to morph. I was listening to Fred Hampton, a video of Fred Hampton. He was talking about the Black Panther Party and how they were doing this to the leaders and doing this to the next leaders. And he was saying, but see, we don't grow our fruit, we grow trees. You know, it's basically like it's going to be somebody else there. It's going to be somebody, and maybe those people that's there are people there doing it their way at this place and time. At the Black Panther Party time, they needed what they had. And Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, they needed what they had. Marcus Garvey, you could go down and they needed what they had to do those type of things. Today, we need something that's different, and we maybe not even recognizing those things that's different because we're looking at a revolutionary time. If it's no actual battlefield war, you're not going to have soldiers out there but you're going to have the same mentality. Somebody's that's going to be leading the classrooms. Somebody that's going to be leading the youth and the messages that they're giving them, to have them in a revolutionary mindset, meaning the revolution of changing how you do things and what you do. And I think that's what the Kaepernicks and stuff like that do. They try to bring light to things and tell people and show people, this is what I'm willing to sacrifice. This needs to stop. I'm going to the forefront no matter how much money I make. I know earlier you did the money sign, but no matter how much money I make, they can take away the rest of my money, you know, for my future contracts. I got this money. And this is somebody that was an entertainer that made it rich, and he could have made more money and kept playing the game he played, but we left that out to dry.
Right. And I think we do need to have some type of aggression, and it does need to be different, but it needs to be there because what they face, we still facing today. They faced racism, they faced sexism, they faced bigotry, they faced all of that. We face that same stuff today. So we still need someone, and maybe it's not so much in the face, but it still has to be strategized. And we're saying the same thing, but it has to be strategized to where we approach and we attack the issue that we're going through. Because sometimes we sit back and we kowtow and we just sit back and just, we made progress. Not you, but we look at these people. We made progress. So that's not on me. And then that mentality, it spreads when we look at TV and we see all these people that look like us, that's got all these contracts, and we say, well, we've made it. We really haven't made it. That's just a few of them. When you look at how many people we are as African Americans, most of us are still miseducated. Most of us are still improperly housed. Most of us are still struggling financially. Most of us are still going through personal problems because of what has happened to us with racism. So the problems that they face is still going on. Someone told me this one day, Kevin. I said, wow, that's great. They said, what is the difference between what happened to our brothers and sisters back then and what happens to us today? And I said, what is it? He said, there's nothing happened. Back in the day, we were physically enslaved, and now we're mentally enslaved. So we're still enslaved is what he was trying to say. So he wasn't talking about physical. He was talking about the mindset that we have today. Many of us is still that mindset of we've arrived because we have the right to do certain things, when most of us are still the very things that they struggle with.
I think I hear that a lot, that we're mentally enslaved today and things like this. But the thing is, I'm gonna say the big difference between mental enslavement and physical enslavement is the choice. We're choosing to be mentally enslaved. You have examples. I have examples on this wall. You know, if all the reasons and anything that should push you to say, you know what, I'm going to be revolutionary. I'm going to change the way I do and think. A revolutionary act is putting money in a black bank. You know, I'm gonna say that revolutionary act is having black products in your household. You know, revolutionary act is seeking black businesses to empower black business. When they said black power in the SNCC, the student colleges, the Black Power movement in the colleges, they were talking about empowerment. And we are not talking about empowering anything. So we're not making moves to empower anything. Many of us are not. So if we're talking about people having mental slavery, then if you don't have mental slavery, right? Then why are you not part of the railroad,
Mhm.
the modern day railroad,
Mhm.
to free the minds of your people?
Yeah.
What are we doing to free the minds of our people? Harriet Tubman was trying to get us out of physical bondage, So where are the people at that's trying to get us away from that? Or why you're not, because they're out there, then
Mhm.
why you're not listening to them or following them? And anybody that say we're mental slavery, I'm gonna say, well, so what's the railroad? Where the railroad? What railroad do you recommend? The Underground Railroad to take us out?
Mhm.
And they're gonna not know. Most of them are not gonna know any brothers or sisters that they could name, which I could probably name some.
Mhm.
That I could say, man, they're trying to free our minds.
Exactly.
You don't want to. That's what I'm saying. The freeing of your mind. Some of our people on the plantation, they couldn't. They could have been 60 years old.
Mhm.
They could have had, a foot chopped up, whatever. They couldn't. They wouldn't go run and couldn't get anywhere, whatever. Or they had someone keeping them there. I'm not going to run and leave my wife and kids. I'm not going to do this.
Mhm.
So some of them, sacrificed and stayed or whatever. Some of them did run and get away. Some of them were captured. Some of them were killed. Some of them rebelled and turned against the slave masters and whatever. You gave names of them, Nat Turner and people like that. So what is our excuse for not freeing our minds?
Hey, our excuse is many of us have bought into what we have been taught as little kids until we are adults. As far as an educational system, everybody's not Afrocentric. Everybody's not pro-Black. There's a lot of us who are still struggling because we've been taught that way. But those that are, right, all we can do is teach. All we can teach until we leave this earth. And hopefully some of the things we say can catch on to others, and then they can continue to regurgitate that, because everybody's not going to stop and listen to the John Kev show and say, those brothers are good. We're going to just be free. So when I say mental slavery, I'm talking about what has been put on our minds since birth when it comes to our education. You told me that when you first started, you had to reteach yourself a whole lot of things because you knew that the crap they taught you wasn't right, but you chose to do that.
Right.
So we all have to make that choice. And there are many that's not going to make that choice. So it's not incumbent upon us to try to change everybody. So it's incumbent upon us to try to change ourselves and try to help those who are going to be willing to listen to us as we continue to go on this journey that we call life.
Change the mind of our kids coming up. Change the mind of your grandkids. Change the mind of the youth that coming up, and try to give them the weapons that is need to get away from the mental slavery, if that's what it is we have.
What, you got some comments or what?
Nah, man. We'll see. They blocked me on Facebook. So
Okay.
A lot of people that normally would come on Facebook and look at the show.
Oh, they can't.
They can't.
Okay.
They can't. I can't even tag myself in it.
Okay.
So we had no comments on my KL Lewis show. I think many people that I know, and I did tag your people on it. But
okay, that's good.
Maybe
they're
boycotting you.
Well, all we can say on that note is, we appreciate everyone who tuned in and watched this. And please tell someone about the John Kev show and subscribe to our show. Yeah. Because we want you to tell people so they can listen to this dialogue, because this is the kind of language and dialogue that everyone needs to have, where they can listen, and then hopefully you can call in. And once we get up and running the way we should be, you guys can give us more comments, because I know everybody that watched this broadcast, many of you had comments to support what we're talking about, how there's a price when you protest. And we just want to bring it out tonight. So Thank you once again for watching this broadcast. This is the John Kev show. And I guess I'm going to say what we normally say. We out.
Yeah.
Now.